going into the Coast Guard, so I joined the Coast Guard because I was, we broke college students. These college students are there rich. We wrote that bio 2 weeks ago. We had $12.5 million today. So come on, like Dave Chappelle, come on over here. Let me help you. I said, you like that cigarette that's hanging out the corner of your Uncle Larry's mouth. You got one puff left and it's over.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Dre and Smiley, the Inner Circle podcast.
All right, so we got a great guest with us on here today. I'll read a quick bio here before we get started. Christy Rutherford. Christy is an executive coach specializing in helping women excel in office politics and self-care. Her remarkable achievements include guiding her clients to over 11 million in salary raises during the pandemic. In addition to being a best-selling author with 5 number one books on Amazon, Christy is a Harvard Business School alumna and a certified leadership coach from Georgetown University. Her expertise has earned her multiple features in Forbes magazine. Notably, Christy is the 13th African-American woman in over 230 years to attain the rank of commander in the U.S. Coast Guard, where she faced significant demographic challenges. She has also shown incredible dedication to public service, responding to the needs of citizens in New Orleans after the Hurricane Katrina, and serving a 3-year congressional fellowship in the House of Representatives. With an impressive academic portfolio, including an MBA and a pastry chef diploma, Christy has received numerous accolades for her work, such as a Harvard Business School's 2018 Launching New Venture Pitch Contest Grand Master Champion, and the Edward R. Williams Award for Excellence in Diversity. Get ready for an insightful conversation as we delve into Christy Rutherford's extraordinary journey and glean some wisdom from her expertise in leadership and empowerment. With that, Christy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Interview's over. It's been an hour. How great that was. That's a short bio. Interview's over. It's been an hour.
Yeah, that was a short bio, but it could have been shorter, I suppose. But I don't want to miss anything. So Christy, take us back. Tell me about your beginnings. So, and what I'm referring to is you're doing a lot right now. You're very accomplished. Where does that come from? Did you come from a family that were filled with, ambitious people? Were you just hungry as a child, wanting to do more? Talk to me about your upbringing.
You know what's funny? I just did a client event before we jumped on the call. I said, in my mind, I've really done nothing.
Wow.
They were like, what? Because I have so much more that I want to do.
Sure.
And that I want to accomplish. And It's like, I feel like, we're never really done. And a part of being super ambitious or accomplished, I think for the first probably 30, 45 years of my life, is I was trying to prove people wrong. Growing up where people say, oh, you never amount to much because you're, I'm in a small town from South Carolina, or you want to amount to much because I was a troublemaker, because I talked all the time. See, I was trying to medicate and shun my gift. I talked all the time. I stayed in trouble. And then, going to the Future Farmers of America camp and not having a lot of black people, and then, being disrespected at the highest level because of, being black, and they joined the Coast Guard. You don't belong here because you're black. And so a large part of my life, it was to prove people wrong. And now I just work to prove myself and God right.
That says a lot. And I think a lot of people are driven by something, right? Your desire to prove people wrong can take you to great places, as we see from your bio that I just read. So right now, one of your passions is helping women, right? Empowering women. Before we get into that, though, tell me about your journey to going to...
Yeah, South Carolina State, the greatest HBCU ever. But go ahead.
Is that right? Is that the greatest? Is that the greatest? Okay.
The greatest.
Okay, I was wondering which one it was. Okay.
Party school.
Okay. And then going into to Harvard to pursue your MBA. So, and ended up in the Coast Guard. Give me the short story in terms of that journey that led you to Harvard and then the Coast Guard, and then we'll build from there.
Actually, I went to South Carolina State for my undergrad. I didn't go to Harvard until 2016. So I was
Ah,
already, yeah, I went to the executive education program where you got to be one of the baddest people in the land. So it was 46,000 or 46 people. I'm sorry, 186 people from 46 countries. So
wow.
that was next level. But so I went to my undergrad in South Carolina State. I always wanted to be a pastry chef. And this is before the internet. Y'all know we grew up before the internet.
Yes,
These kids
yes,
be
that's
like,
right. That's right.
what? And so, yeah, I wanted to go to culinary school, and they only sent me stuff from Rhode Island, from Johnson Oils in Rhode Island. And so I ended up going to South Carolina State. It was close. I wanted to be do agricultural business, and the reason why I didn't go to Clemson was because of the Future Farmers of America camp. You know, being around white farmers, I wasn't ready. But then I went to a black college, and then it's the worst because then I found I wasn't black enough. So that was the whole battle of
It's like I can't
you like
win.
figuring out. Huh?
I can't win. They want me over there. They
No
want me
way,
over
you
here.
gotta endure some foolishness, right? I didn't go to the white college to fight the white people, the white farmers. Now I gotta go to the black college to fight the black people because people telling me I'm not black, and I'm like,
Right,
I've always identified as black.
right,
Uh,
right, 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 right.
I didn't know I wasn't black enough.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that's another fight, right? And then going into the Coast Guard, so I joined the Coast Guard because I was, we broke college students. These college students today are rich. We didn't have that much money growing up, and our parents, they didn't have it like that. And so my friend came back to school driving a Mitsubishi 3000 GT, and y'all know, he'd be like,
Whoa.
I don't know what the Coast Guard is, but I'm joining because I want that money.
Yeah.
And so it was also a guaranteed job, so I didn't have to go home when I graduated from college. And so I joined with the intent of doing 3 years, but I ended up doing 16 and a half. And if you know anything about the federal government, we retire at 20. So it was a whole story of me working hard. Y'all see, I'm a hustler to prove people wrong. And I ended up burning out with 3.5 years left to retire with a full pension. So, so that's just another part of the journey that I don't talk about.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Wow, that's you gave me a chill when you said you went to the HBCU and you weren't black enough. I went to vividly. I recall I went to Dartmouth College as an undergrad and only school, and I remember talking to my mom. I was like, these black people, they're calling me incognito, which means you're not black enough. And she's like, you the blackest thing up there. What do you mean? I was like, they think we're wealthy. You're like, you live 3 houses from the projects. Did they not know it's called the bottom? I was like, I don't understand these black people. These are different kind of black people. They're not like the kind in our hood in Pittsburgh. And when you said that, I just took me right back to that conversation. But I want to circle back because we had a chef on not too long ago, and she was a longshoreman chef. She was a chef for boats traveling around these vessels traveling around the oceans. And you mentioned the Coast Guard, and she mentioned that a lot of people on her boat, the oarsmen or people on the boat, they go through the Coast Guard. Can you just 16 years in the Coast Guard? Can you just explain the difference between the Navy, the Coast Guard, or just like were you a chef in the Coast Guard, or how
No.
does the pastry chef tie into that, or were you the food person, the
Mm-mm.
general who order all the food for the Coast?
Nope.
How does those things come together, or they're totally separate?
No, they're totally separate. So the dream was always to be a chef. The Coast Guard was the way to to not go home, right? It's a guaranteed check. And so I joined, and then I mean I loved it because we did something different every day. Like every day is something different. So I spent the first 2 years of my career chasing drug runners in the Caribbean. So I was on a ship, and so we got 5 sets of drug runners with $125 million drug total
Wow.
seized from joining these American streets. And then I moved, that was out of Charleston. I moved to Virginia for 3.5 years. So 3 years. So I was the dispatch, like 911. So if a ship catches on fire, runs into a bridge or run into each other, whatever, they call me and then I dispatch the people. I moved to Houston. So Houston is the largest petrochemical port in the nation. So now we're regulating all the large oil companies to make sure the terrorists, is like the new laws that were written after September 11th, to make sure the terrorists don't get on to, like a lot of the oil companies and blow them up. And then I went to 3 years on Capitol Hill with Elijah Cummings, the late great Elijah Cummings, to
Yeah.
now. So I'm over the oversight committee of my service. So it's like the eyes looking behind the curtains, and you see why we got all the challenges that we have. So that was terrifying, but it was good. And then the last job just combined all the five. And so what I didn't do a good job of was managing how people saw me and managing my rage and managing people telling me what I couldn't do, because I've always been programmed to prove you wrong. And they never stop talking. So you think that, oh, if you tell me I don't belong here because I'm black and because I'm a woman, I'm going to work to prove you wrong. And so I'm working 80 hours a week. I'm doing all these things. And then, in that, getting to, one of the senior levels in my career, I thought that they would finally give me my gold star. And it just never came. And now I've surrendered my ability to be able to value and validate myself and put it into the hands of other people who are never going to give it to me.
Mm.
And so that, created a whole spiral, which is interesting, but it is what it is.
No, that's when you were speaking, I felt like I was a NCIS James Bond. You're chasing down drug runners, keeping them from coming into the country. How realistic is these narco movies when you see them chasing the drug submarines? Is it 80% realistic, 10%?
No, we chase them.
Or
Yep. Yep.
so
No,
you
it's
really
it's real.
chase them?
I mean,
Wow.
yeah, and the Navy is Department of Defense, and we're Department of Homeland Security. So the Navy trains for war, but they also do other stuff. And the Coast Guard is more like the maritime, the people who go out. It's different sets of laws that we regulate. So we're not necessarily fighting for war as much as we're ensuring the safety of the American people on the coastline and inland.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So you were featured in Forbes a number of times. Talked to 3 times. Look at that. You're so humble too. I love that. No, I love your energy in all honesty. But tell me about the.
I ain't bragging. I'm just saying what's true.
Yeah,
I
hey,
ain't
just
bragging.
facts. Just state the facts, right? Just state the facts. So tell me this, Christy. What sort of things were you recognized for on 3 different occasions? Tell me some of your accomplishments that they showcased in those 3 articles in Forbes.
So the first time I was featured in Forbes, I actually we were talking about this is when they were like, oh, Target is going to let men use the bathrooms and this, that, or whatever. So it was just a thought of how a loosely written policy, because I wrote laws, right? I was in the Coast Guard, and it's like, this is when they had people who were on social media going into the bathrooms. Like, men would be like, oh, we can go into the women's bathrooms. Remember when they started doing that? It was a while ago. And it was like, oh, we can go into the women's bathroom. So it was, everybody's kind of freaked out, and you have all these stories going. And so the stance is not the problem that a person, how a person wants to identify going into the bathroom, is that the policy was so loosely written, it can be misinterpreted 1,000 different ways. And that's the problem that policy created. So that's what that story was really about. And then the second one was talking about being harassed, how women are harassed in the workplace. And then the last one was, are women creating their own glass ceilings? So I know that women do have challenges in the workplace. I mean, I worked in a mostly male-dominated environment where my demographic was 0.1%. So people look at me like, you don't know. You'd be like, police. But a lot of the things that we do, we have a lot more power than we think. And so a lot of women be like, oh, I can't be promoted, or, oh, they won't let me, or, oh, they won't do this. Or somebody inboxed me, was like, I got a job and they treat me bad. And I'm like, well, leave, girl. Why you?
Yeah.
Well, I can't. No, that's a decision. So it's really getting women to recognize what they can do for themselves and reclaim our power so we can get paid what we deserve.
Wonderful. That's a great segue to my next question. So I was reading in your bio that you helped women achieve over $11 million in salary raises during the pandemic. So share some of the strategies and the approach you used to achieve that, along with any challenges you faced.
Okay, yeah, we wrote that bio 2 weeks ago. We had $12.5 million today.
Hello.
So,
hello. Hey, keep me honest, Christy. Keep me honest.
Oh, that's that old number. Why are you bringing up old stuff?
From 2 weeks ago. My bad.
Yeah, we had one of our clients actually got $1 million increase. Sister.
Wow.
Hello.
Wow.
Hello.
Okay.
So what are some of the things that we do? I would say the main thing, three things really. One, we got to learn how to take care of ourselves. We need to be trained, high achieving, ambitious women who are addicted to
Mm-hmm.
proving people wrong. We need to be trained on what self-care is and how to take care of ourselves. So
Mm.
I'm pretty much who I needed 10 years ago before I burned out and ran into a wall doing 120 miles an hour and left my career, my good government, delicious sweet tea check from Chick-fil-A with a splash of lemonade in it, with that crunchy ice that you can crunch on for about 30 minutes when you're done. Well, I left my good refreshing government check with 3.5 years left to retire. I would have retired in 2016, and so I'm who I needed back then
Mm-hmm.
to I would just say slap me around a little bit, tell the truth,
Mm-hmm.
and to say, Chris, you need to take care of yourself. Oh yeah, I can blame my current boss, but I was dragging 15 years of baggage before he showed up.
Mm.
So it's easy to blame the next toxic person, but my forest was on fire long before he showed up. He was that last match
Mm.
and coming to the forest that boom that blew it up.
Yeah.
So it's really how do I and high achieving women, we're addicted to proving people wrong. We have no idea that we're doing that because
Mm-hmm.
that's a normal part of how we exist, and we were doing it long before we got to work.
Right.
So one of the parts is stop. How do I stop but not lose my momentum?
Mm.
How do we teach women how to slow down because we're freaked out about losing momentum because we're on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's almost like a two-part thing that we do. And so, and coming at it from a strong point of a high achieving woman who did burn out, who did pay the catastrophic price of burnout, and looking at women to my, I used to be like you, right? And they be like, well, real girl, I used to be crazy. For real? Yes. Let me help you. Come on, like Dave Chappelle. Come on over here. Let me help you and show you once we slow down enough and recognize who we are, Dre, and understand who we already are. Recognize we already got all the degrees. We already done all the things. We've already checked all the boxes, but we can't see that because we're always in the pursuit of proving somebody wrong. Once they slow down and start taking care of themselves and coming back into their minds and coming back into their household, so their kids saying that they're be talking about their mama for the next 30 years, and then recognizing and owning who they already are. Oh, the money's easy after that because you're just owning who you already are.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go get this money.
Right. Right. So get the bag. Yeah. So Christy, tell me this. So clearly you're the answer for people like you. They don't realize they're like you in terms of, driven, wanting to prove people wrong. What they don't realize is there is life after this. This is not, the only option. So you're the answer for them in that respect. Who was the answer for you when you realized that, hey, this is the match, this light that's going to light this, this final spark for me to get out of here? Did you have a mentor that helped you through that transition? How did you go from 16 and a half years and into your next chapter in life?
I had a coach
You
and I
did.
had 3 therapists.
Okay.
And one of them, the first one, when I was burning out, wanted to medicate me. And I was like, dude, I cussed him out and tried to tear the hinges off the door because I went to him and he talked to me for 30 minutes and told me who I was. And then said, I need to medicate you immediately. But he only listened to me talk for 5 minutes. And so I wasn't seeking medication. I was seeking a solution. Like, tell me how I got to. I'm an action-oriented person. I didn't come here to complain about what I wasn't willing to change. I didn't come here to talk about what I wasn't willing to change. Give me the root of how I got here so I can fix it, so I can get out of this situation. And so he ain't like that. So I tried to tear the hinges off the door, cussed him out. And by the time a high achieving woman admits to herself that we're in trouble, we almost 90% dead. Like, we got third-degree burns all over our body. By the time we confess to other people that we need help, and get a therapist. Only thing we got hanging out the ground is our finger, right? We buried like one of the skeletons in the Michael Jackson Thriller video. Like it's trying to come out the ground. Only thing left out the ground is our finger, right? And so to go there and to confess that I don't have it all together and I'm not perfect and I'm the great Christy Rutherford, so I can't even really be here and let everybody know that I need help and that I am on fire because I am the one of the first people in my family to graduate from college, one of the first people to earn over $100,000. I'm the great Christy Rutherford. I am a very notarized leader in the organization who should not be having any problems and who should secretly be miserable with all that she has. So by the time I confess to somebody that I'm in trouble, I'm almost dead anyway. And so to have this guy, want to medicate me and not give me a solution, that didn't work. And so then I had to drive like another hour and a half to Houston to see a lady who all she did was just let me talk. And I was like, so you gonna dig up the skeleton, you gonna leave it with me?
You can take that with you when you leave.
Well, yeah. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna pour out.
Right.
Talk about some ish.
Right.
And dig the skeleton up and aim like this. Okay, we're done. What we gonna do with this? We just dug up. And then we come the next week, we dig up another one. So now I'm dancing in the Michael Jackson video at Thriller with these skeletons that we dig up and we're not putting away. But at the same time, I had a coach who I could not be the same person or talk about the same thing in December that I was talking about in November. I could not be talking about the same thing or even thinking about the same thing in January that I did in November. So it was like the ladder that I can climb out of the situation while other people was just letting me sit there in it. So either you have somebody who's going to give you the rope, and I'm not knocking therapists. I side-eye a lot of them because I had 3 of them. When I'm on fire, I don't want to be sitting here talking about why I'm melting. Give me some rope and help me get out of here. Give me understanding of how I got here. How do I get out? As opposed to just, let's just talk about why I'm here. So, she played a pivotal part of me not dying. And then 2 of my friends, so because I'm still melting, right? And it was, and I'm not showing up for meetings. I'm stuttering. I stopped combing my hair. The sister stops combing her hair.
It's real. It's real.
Socks, right? Like, I am about to die, but I'm locked into this illusion of success. And I'm Commander Rutherford. Does that make sense? And I'm not supposed to be on fire. And I'm telling people that I'm blacking out in meetings. And they were like, well, you need to put it on your medical record to get paid. And I'm like, but are you listening to me? So I'm suffering while people are applauding my success. I'm suffering and I'm melting while people are applauding my success. And so nobody was listening to the suffering soul, because when you create a strong brand, people don't see the suffering person. They only see the brand that you created. And so when the suffering person is in trouble, Kate Spade, like, who's listening to Kate Spade who got problems? Yeah. Nobody. Like, you Kate Spade. You have an international luxury, man. Your first and last name that she sold, right? Oh, you have a problem with your husband, girl, you can buy a new husband. So it's like super successful people are suffering and nobody's listening because they're only talking to the illusion of the brand that we created as opposed to the suffering persons. But I had 2 friends out of the 100 people that had me on speed dial that was like, man, just go. Because me to leave with 3.5 years left was insane. I was insane. Let's be clear. Right? Mm-hmm. But nobody was willing to recognize and agree with me that I was in trouble. But 2 of my friends like, man, just go. Just run and we'll figure it out. And so I ran like Tina Turner ran from Ike. Like, I had to run for my life because I am so grateful as I'm looking at, on LinkedIn, we see an RIP every day. Women are dying at their desks. Black women are dying from cancer. We're having heart attacks. We're having strokes. I am grateful that I didn't stroke out or have a heart attack because I was on the ledge. And so when I talk to a lot of women, they're right where I was. I know what burnout sounds like. I did it. I know what being almost, catastrophic death sounds like. I almost did it. I know the code words. I know the vibration. I know the feeling. I know that they're hiding it and I know they can't tell anybody. And so part of what I do is, remove the shame of having it all and feeling like you have nothing because I did it.
Mm. Yeah, the picture you painted, Christy, is one that, in the culture that exists today, you can, look any direction and see how everyone strives for these material gains, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge is what you just described, the Kate Spades of the world. Yourself, thankfully, you were strong enough to, well, you had resources to kind of help guide you
Mm-hmm.
through it, but they create almost this um, insular or this vacuum environment where they either feel like they can't speak to anyone about it. No one can really appreciate it because, like you said, you're the commander, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who's going to believe that the commander can't man the ship? Who's going to appreciate and understand the commander can't man the ship? I'm thankful that you were able to, you had the resources, those two people and others, I'm sure, that told you, hey, Christy, let's make this pivot and make it happen. And now the end result is you're helping, I imagine hundreds of people across the U.S. Get out of these situations that you find yourself in. Smiley.
Wow, I'm just sitting here and you touched upon so much, Christy, and I respect and appreciate your honesty, your integrity, and especially when you said the illusion of success, because I think a lot of us who are first generation college, first generation perceived success, everyone looks at the material side and thinks that you're wealthy or just because you hit six figures or whatever money you made, oh, their life has to be perfect. Like they have no other challenges. Like money is just the blanket that makes sure everything is perfect, but that really isn't true. And one last thing I'll mention is we had on our podcast early on a couple of psychiatrists and mental professionals, and I was surprised because out of a large percentage of them said that they had therapists. Here they are, the professionals, and for us as adults and professionals or people who just need that support, they provide a valuable information about ourselves and a foundation that allows us to reassess, recalibrate, and go forward. So, but the question I want to switch it a little bit on you, a little bit, and I mean, going over your accolades, and I love it when you correct Dre because three Forbes editions is better than two, and then 12 million is a million greater than 11. But from a Christy Rutherford perspective, when you look in the mirror and you say, I am most proud because I graduated from the HBCU. I caught Noriega's drug submarine, or what was something that just made you that you even reflect on as like, you know what, I did the thing. I feel so proud and accomplished because this other stuff I was doing to prove someone else wrong. But what did you do that just made you feel humbled and you just say, you know what, this is what I'm standing on because I was so happy when I spoke at my cousin's reunion. Who knows? Whatever that is. What would that
Yeah.
be for Christy?
It's a lot, but it's a lot because I do a lot. But I went to culinary school. I graduated. I went to culinary school in 2004 and got my certificate as a pastry chef. And then I also went last October in Vegas for about 5 weeks. But one thing, we talk about these women's raises. Like I tell people, I've been in the game for a long time. I was a mentor in the Coast Guard. I worked for free as a mentor while I did my job. And so the Coast Guard now has the largest number of captains, which is a colonel equivalent in history ever. That was me. Right. I created a mentorship network in 2009 and had to fight. And when I say fight, claw, it's one thing to fight the people, to fight the man, right? Because you got to fight them. But now I got to fight the black people. I'm just creating a solution to what y'all been complaining about for the past 10 years. Why are we fighting? They're like, but that's not your job. I'm like, but y'all been complaining about it. We can help ourselves. Does that make sense? Like, we can't keep looking at the same thing. I say the exact same thing today. We can't keep looking for other people to give us what do we have control over. So I created a mentorship network and caught HELL to now try to advance. And senior leadership starts at the very junior levels. It don't start at the mid level, right? So now in 2020, we had the largest number of black captains be selected and a lot of them were my direct mentees. I was like this. I told y'all, but it took 13 years to prove that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I mean, so when I went to my friend's promotion ceremony, I think they said it's like 19. I was like, what? And I'd be like, that was me. So, so we have the and humble people like that was me and so and so and so and so. I'd be like this. Nope. Um, but then a part of the $12.5 million in raises, we've saved 25 marriages. We've stopped 20 women from dying and having nervous breakdown. We've gotten women off of medication. We've kept hundreds of kids out of therapy talking about their mama. So that's more impressive to us than the money. But most people, as y'all said it, most people think they need the money. They think their jobs are the problem. And I'm like, why are we talking about jobs when you crazy? Why are we talking about jobs when you gonna have a stroke in 2 months? Like, why are we talking about this job when I told one of my clients, I said, you like that cigarette that's hanging out the corner of your Uncle Larry's mouth. You got one puff left, it's over. Right? Like, you about to burn out. You got that cigarette dangling out the side of your uncle's mouth. Right? And you're going to die. Why are we talking about this job? So that's more I would say it's not therapeutic, but that's more warming to me than the money. But we're gonna get this money too, because to put $12.5 million, at least 12 of that into the households of Black families. Let's go get this money. So we think it's either or, and we can have both.
Great.
No, I am. One thing is, I remember I met this lady. She's here in Tampa. I live in Tampa, Florida, and she's from Lakeland, and she has her own law firm. And she said her when she was a senior in high school, junior in high school, and her friends were like, "What do you want to do when you graduate?" And she said she didn't even get a chance to respond, and her friend said, "Well, you're a good writer. You should be a lawyer." Then this guy said, "Oh, she'll never be a lawyer. She's too dumb to be a lawyer." And she said that was God talking to her because she went took undergrad and in law school, and now she owns her own law firm, all because this guy told her because she couldn't do something, and she didn't even know that she wanted to be in law, and now she has her own practice and everything. So tell me, because I have a 16-year or 15-year-old daughter, what's the root cause of someone telling you can't do something that will change her path? Maybe she wants to be a medical professional, but someone's like, you can't be a lawyer, and then all of a sudden she changes to be a lawyer to prove this one entity wrong. Is that typical in women in general or Black women in particular,
Oh
that
yeah.
someone just tells you something and you want to prove them wrong versus forget you and your ideas. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I want to be this master lifeguard or whatever. I don't care about being a lawyer or whatever. But what's the catalyst for that? Because do you find it's bigger in women versus men? Because someone tell me I can't do so. Like, man, if you ain't on my path, I don't really care. I just keep it moving. But I think women might internalize it. Is that fair?
Yeah. Women internalize it a little bit differently, but here's the thing. A lot of these women today who talk about a high functioning depression, high functioning anxiety, and all these labels, I call them medical terms to be able to allow you to wear the label of a loser. And I said it, because now you're not being in the fullness of who God called you to be, right? So I had a client who said she was high functioning depression, and I cussed her out. I stopped cussing 2 months ago. It's kind of sad, but I had to. And so it's like, okay, so let's figure out why you're depressed. Because I don't believe in a high functioning depression. High functioning depression is knowing that you're crazy, you're not gonna do nothing about it. That's pretty much you acknowledging that you crazy. Or I used to be depressed. So that's all this ish I talk. I used to have panic attacks. I had anxiety. I was depressed. I had PTSD. All the stuff I talk, I used to be that. So I can stand on a different soapbox and be like this. Yeah, I remember. You just choose whether or not you're going to accept that label. Anyway, moving on. So come to find out, she's actually a poet. She's not, but she's a super successful intellectual property attorney. So she wanted to be a poet, but her mom and them, who was educated, was like, you ain't gonna be no poet out here. So you come over here and you be a lawyer. So now she's a lawyer, 40-something, got kids, checked all the boxes, but she's depressed because she let go of that artistic expression of who she was to be normal. So when you talk about the woman who's a lawyer, I wonder if she's happy, because that may not be what she wanted to be. I had another lady who's an engineer. She got like a PhD, but she's a mechanical engineer. She's actually an artist. Talking about she depressed. I was like this. So let's go dig up what had happened. Well, her mom and them said, you ain't gonna be no artist. The educated parents, you gonna come over here, you gonna go to college, and you gonna be an engineer. So now she's PhD in engineer, has all these degrees and making all this money, but her heart wants to be an artist. So once we dig that up, now how can we make marry with the two? So the poet now writes the poetry as a super successful intellectual property attorney who got a 40% raise.
Hello.
Right? Now the artist who is an engineer uses her engineering mind to now create workshops for companies to help their teams innovate and be more agile through art. So she created a business around that. So at 40 something, if you're stuck or you're miserable or you're depressed, you can't tell anybody because you're super successful. So they're trapped right where I was. Is like you actually forgot what you did and who you are in the pursuit of being successful. Now you're successful and you're miserable.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's go back a bit, Christy. So among your many professional accomplishments, one of which was you being the Grand Master Champion of Harvard Business School's Launching New Ventures pitch contest. Tell me about that and how you leverage that experience in what you do today.
So when I left my career with 3.5 years left to retire with the full pension, then I ran for another year and a half because I never stopped long enough to work on my mindset. I just needed the money because I'm Christy Rutherford. So I'm still working to now prove that I wasn't, because they talked about me when I left. I mean, some of the people that were my friends, oh, they called me stupid, she crazy. I was crazy. Let's be clear. There was a reason why I'm leaving, but I would have died within a year. But I think most people would have been more satisfied with me dying of having a stroke than they would have been for me making the decision to save my own life. I took the uncommon path, and so now, after a year and a half, I exploded because I never stopped. I was already crazy when I left, but now I'm crazy. So when I listen to these women, and I'm going somewhere with this, talk about I'm gonna leave my job for entrepreneurship. That don't mean me making money. I'd be like, you better not leave that good job for entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship requires 120% brain capacity, and we leave it empty. Don't nobody tell us that. Don't nobody tell me I joined this network marketing company. I was gonna be rich in 2 months selling coffee. Y'all know how they do. I was gonna be a coffee millionaire in 2 months, baby. And I blew all my money. So all the 6 figures that I had saved, after 18 months, I never stopped to fill my cup and work on my mindset, because now I'm frantic because I'm Christy Rutherford and I failed and I left my job and I'm crazy, right? And so I ended up moving in with my brother for 3.5 years, because when I exploded and when I finally collapsed mentally, it was catastrophic. I could not coherently create a sentence for a year. I was drunk on his couch drinking. This is why I have this mason jar that I drink out of, because it takes me back to other days. I drink out of a mason jar. I was drinking red berry Ciroc with muscadine juice out of a mason jar, eating Little Caesars pizza and cheese and snap mix and nutty bars. I was a whole hot mess for a year. And so I had no money. Because when I left the Coast Guard, I didn't focus on my mindset, and then I only focused on the money, but I couldn't get the money because I never focused on my mindset. So when my mind went, everything went. Now I'm incapable of making money. I can't create. I can't even talk. So anyway, so that was that. So that was 2013, 14, 15. 16, I got into Harvard with no money, but a vision. But I had the GI Bill. And so a part of Harvard was I was better, and I cleaned myself up, and I figured out how I got there. So I could systematically, deconstruct how I got to land it where I was, and now I'm climbing out of it. And so Harvard for me was a way to translate all the stuff that I did in the Coast Guard, because I was great, into corporate, because the language is completely different. So while I was there, I was like, that's how y'all say that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's how you say that. So it was the interpretation of how do I not convert the great stuff that I did and who I was into a language that was going to be marketable. And so going to, that class and winning a pitch competition was me just demonstrating who I was, but it was also, being featured in Forbes 3 times, writing, 5 books in 8 months. And, I've been featured in Black Enterprise. I was featured by Harvard Business School 9 times in 6 months. They hung a picture of my flag up at the international leadership, like all
Wow.
these things.
Wow.
Y'all didn't read my awards. Y'all see me talking. So now it became, I have to really prove myself right, because that being a loser, just because I was losing didn't make me a loser, but you couldn't tell me that at the time.
Yeah.
3.5 years in my brother's house with no money. I'm telling you, I was like the children of Israel. My clothes never wore out. I had no money. Like, when I say no money, I made more money when I was 14. Like, I had no money. And I never filled out my Veteran Affairs paperwork. I talked to that dude yesterday, actually. He was like, you had 24 medical conditions you could have been paid for. And that's a part of my story I'll maybe talk about this year. But it's like, I had, he said, you have. I said, no, I had 24 medical conditions when I left the Coast Guard. I was 100% can't work. I could have been compensated for my brokenness, but that wasn't the journey that I wanted. I wanted to be better, and I knew I could be better. And it always seemed like a good idea until the next year would pass on New Year's Eve, when I'd be writing down my goals. Be like this, I got $10. At the end of the year, I'm still here. But I didn't think I was ever going to get out of my brother's house. I'm hopeless. I was like, that check, that $3,000 a month sound real good right now. But then I had to start thinking about, what did I have, right? So it's like, okay, you ain't got no money, but what you got? Well, I got a better relationship with my family. Okay, what else? My back don't hurt no more. Okay, what else? Well, my knees, that was real bad, and that anxiety I don't have no more. Yeah. Okay, what else? Yeah. Then the next year, right? You're like this. Oh, I got $20. I'm sad. What else you got though? Well, my eyes are better. Okay, well, I lost weight. What else? Okay, well, I got my marbles back, right? Yeah. Like I could actually talk this year. So the dude, I was talking to this dude yesterday. He was disgusted. I know he was throwing up in his mouth like, this chick left all that money on the table. But for me, money could not buy my full physical health. So I can, and I'm not knocking the veteran system. But what Christy did not want, that wasn't a part of my journey. I knew I wasn't supposed to stay that broken. I mean, I could have been paid, but my story would have been different. Yeah. So that win at Harvard Business School in a pitch competition. Yeah. was just the next evolution of proving people wrong and showing y'all how great I am over here. Even if I might not have no money, baby, I'm gonna beat the brakes off of this competition.
Can the church say amen?
Amen.
No, that's great. That's great. I mean, obviously, that journey was challenging. It was trying. It was hard. But it's all of what you went through has made you who you are now. And the amount of people, the extent to which you're able to help them, that's, you got to love that. I'm sure your clients, my guess is you probably don't have to do much advertising. My guess is your clients are like, yo, you got to check out Christy. Here's where I was. Here I am. And she's the source of the reason for it. Am I right about that?
No, it's crazy to me. It's crazy. It's like, I talk to women and they're terrified to change. They're terrified to believe they can have a better life. I can't believe it. Right? Like, because you coming over here talking about a better job, and I'm like, but you can live a better life. Now I'm a fraud. What? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I am what I teach. So I can believe that if you have high blood pressure, you don't have to have that. Like, because we've done that not just for myself, but for my clients. And so sometimes I have a client who's, I think she's 33 now, but she had fibroids, endometriosis. She had 3 surgeries on the fibroids, endometriosis. She stuttered since she was 3, and she had high blood pressure. And I said, man, come on over here, because I healed. Do you hear me?
All right now.
I know her stuff is stress rooted. I said, you know what? Come on over here. Your tongue gonna relax. Your uterus gonna relax. And I didn't know she had high blood pressure. I know she was a whole hot mess. And so 4 months later, she woke up one day. I like to let her talk for like 30 minutes. She's been stuttering since she was 3. She don't stutter no more.
Wow.
Right? And the fibroids and the endometriosis went away. She don't take medication. She don't even take Motrin for cramps. And then she don't have high blood pressure no more. And so now it's like when she tells people that they can heal, they get angry because they don't want to hear that because they've learned how to cope. And so now, living in a world where high function anxiety, adult autism, adult ADHD, and all these things, when I be talking, people get mad because I'm creating a new conversation. If women have been told for years that we should work 3 times as hard to make half the pay, and I'm over here talking about we've doubled 20 women's salaries and triple 9 and got 5 sisters, 7-figure packages, I gotta fight these chicks. It's like they don't believe it, and they don't believe that it's possible for them. So it's hard. It's rewarding because I'm aggressive, but it's hard because it's almost like the belief system, it wasn't as bad. I would say they're more pliable in 2020. In 2013, I'm drilling on freaking concrete right now to try to get these women to believe that they shouldn't exist like I did 15 years ago, and that they can be better and that they can be happy and have the job. But a lot of women that I talk to believe that they can get a better job easier than they can have a better life, which is tragic.
So tell me this: two quick questions for you. Then we're going to head to the final 4. The first one is, you've accomplished a lot. We've established that. I'm excited about your accomplishments. You're very proud of them, as you should be. What's next?
That was the short bio, but go ahead.
So what's next for Christy? What are your aspirations at this point? What are your goals?
Oh my goodness! So my goal is to get 10,000 women $1 billion in promotions by 2025. So that, I'm dragging, that's why I was doing the event. I'm dragging my clients, like, y'all supposed to get $15 million, so she was wrong, y'all. I need y'all to get this money so I can hit my goal. So that's that. I'm looking at this year finally. I'm like, I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I got to launch this my chocolate company, right? So I want to do a subscription box for chocolates and pastries or whatever. So we're just talking about that. So I'm looking at how to be able to make that happen. And for me, it's just a journey and the evolution of talking to more people. And so I feel like my company is the best kept secret, because last year I rested because I ran out of money. And when I was running, then I ran into the wall, then I ran out of money, and now I got to get up and like accomplish all these things and be on fire. Now have, last year we were at $10 million. And I think I reached a point last June where I was working with my coaches. I said, you know what? I will never be broke again. Because if you have money and run out of all your money, and then you get the money back, the being freaked out is like a whole different level than if you started from the bottom, now you're here. You started from the bottom, go up and hit the bottom. That's a whole different level. Right? So last July was oh my God, I will never be broke again. So I took a rest. So last year was my rest year, and we still did better. It was our best year ever. Wow. And so this year is like, all right. I'll come out here these streets. And because I was doing a lot of podcasts last year. I wasn't talking to a lot of people because I wanted to rest. And now gear up for, massive domination, to be able to come out and let women know that, we can go and we can have wholeness, and we can have our mindset, and we can have our families, and we can double and triple our salary. So that's what's next, is like, speaking on more global stages, and I'm launching a podcast, and within the next month to be able to share more, the second podcast, right? Share more insight and share more stories, and just have more impact and come out on a greater scale. So that, I would say, that's next.
Great. And then you're pretty open, it seems. But what's one thing most people don't know about you that you wish they did?
I used to drive a tractor in high school. So just in case y'all didn't know, I drive a John Deere and a Massey Ferguson John Deere 935. So I am very domestic. So this is funny. Y'all would like this. Dre Smiley.
Wow.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Domestic, yeah.
She's domestic.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of, she said, she
and Smiley,
mentioned the chef.
she can handle the house, and the home.
And the landscape.
And the
landscaping. Landscape. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you're the first podcast guest that can claim, or not claim, that can drive a John Deere. I'm fascinated.
And a Massey Ferguson with a little spray tank on the back. That's how I learned how to drive a stick. Because if you let off the clutch too fast on a tractor, it'll turn over. So you got to learn how to let off the clutch. You got to ease off of it. Yeah. If you let off too fast, you got the tank on the back. The wheels pop up. So you got to learn how to let off that clutch easy. But I'm from South Carolina. So
I'm dying.
I cook.
That's awesome.
I cook.
Okay.
I can sew.
Okay.
I made my prom dress and other people's clothes and dresses. I landscape. I do crafts.
Okay.
I know how to change my oil.
Hello.
I can put together all kind. This is back in the day. Now stuff comes put together. Y'all know.
Right.
I gave my brother a screwdriver with my Bowflex I had. He was like, like a gallon-sized Ziploc bag of screws. So we had to go buy a drill, right? Put together. We put together the fabricated entertainment centers back in the day. That was like $49. I put all that stuff together. So it's interesting now because people look at me and they're like, and I'm always somebody's mama, right? Packing the snacks. I don't have kids, but I'm like, I was babysitting when I was 12. Okay. So I'm good on that checkbox. Okay. I'm a rich auntie. We good.
Right.
So, a lot of times, and what I had to learn during my 3.5 year of self-discovery, self-remembering, I would just call it, because I just had to remember who I was.
Yeah.
Is like at this level and at this stage of where I am in life and the impact that I'm meant to make, is a lot of people attach these unfair labels on you, these expectations on you based on how they think you should act. Because I show up fine, little light skin, you know what I'm saying? I walk in the room, Smiley. People think I should act a certain way till I start talking. Then they be like this. That lady don't sound like what she looked like. I be like, don't get it twisted. And I was a military officer. So I no longer cater to the expectations of what other people think I should be, but it also it allows me, in relationships. I was dating this guy, and he came down to where I live, and I was like, I cooked it, y'all, for the week. I cooked it and I cleaned it because I can. We washing towels every day. You were like, my God, I'm doing laundry and all that other kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, okay, so that was a demo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because some people can't do it now. I can't do it.
Right.
I can get out here and cut the grass and trim the hedges
if you
and do
need
all this
to.
stuff. But I'm not, because I'm busy.
Right.
So I said, if you need that though, I just showed you that I can. But how do you feel about a cleaning lady in the meal prep? I ain't got time. My time is too valuable. That hour, if y'all know how much I'm worth an hour, I can get paid $25,000 speaking on the stage for an hour. I'm folding these clothes. I prefer to get $25K because, but I pay somebody $100 to come over here and fold these clothes. So it's like, a lot of people assume based on what I look like, what I should act like.
Right.
And it's shocking to them when I'm not incongruent with what their expectations of me based on some external factors of you went to Harvard Business School or you did this, you did that. And I'll be like this, man, get out of here. I'm who I am.
Right.
But that's what I want people to know. I'm very domestic.
Oh, that's
I love
amazing. Well, I'm gonna put this out there. We usually do this with all our guests. If you're ever in Tampa, just let us know because we take all our podcast guests to dinner. So if you're ever in the Tampa
Okay,
area,
I got some
I'll,
friends in
I'll
Tampa, but come see them.
yeah, come on down. And as we move into Final Four, speaking about dinners and chefs and baking, the first question of the Final Four, Christy, is if you could have dinner and at the dinner table there's four seats, four chairs, you're in one, and three other representatives are in the other three chairs, alive or dead, who would you want to have dinner with and why?
One, Napoleon Hill. I love, obsessed with Napoleon
Uh,
Hill. Uh, why? Napoleon Hill studied
uh,
500 of the most successful people, and he built success philosophy. So I got his latest book right here. So Napoleon Hill will be one because there are principles, there are guiding principles to success. And not only does he talk about money being number 12 on the 12 things that constitute real riches, but a pleasing personality, sound physical health, sharing blessings with others. So we equate wealth to money. But if you give up your happiness and your joy and your peace of mind on the way to money, then you're not really rich. So Napoleon Hill be one. I would just drain him of a million questions. Two, Oprah. Oprah introduced me to spirituality or awareness of self in 2009 with her show when I worked at Capitol Hill because I can't work 80 hours a week. They go to work at 9, they get off at 5. I'd be like, but can I come in at 7:30? They'd be like this. No. So and I had to get off at 5 o'clock as opposed to going, getting off at 10. So it was off at 5. I'm looking around like, what do I do? So I might well start watching Oprah. So she had all, the Wayne Dyer and the Gary Zukov and, all these metaphysical teachers that got me back in alignment, or I would say closer to who I am in my inner being. So I would just love to, thank Oprah for what she's done. And the last one is kind of hard because I always say that I'm gonna meet TD Jakes and Oprah and Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen was when I was an atheist for 20 years. And then when I started watching Oprah, they was talking about the universe. I'm like, this, I like the universe. I believe in the universe. But it took me a while to figure out the universe and God is the same thing. People talk about it's what you call it. Source, infinite intelligence, the universe, God, Buddha. It's the same one energy, right? And so when I was on my way out of here, not combing my hair and not wearing socks, and in one of the darkest places that I've been in, when I was leaving my career, I would drive an hour and a half to go to Joel Osteen's church to get light. And then I would go back to darkness during the week. And then on Sunday, I drive an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back to Houston so he teaches, from a place of knowingness and from a place of lessons as opposed to just telling Bible stories. So, to be able to thank him for that. And then TD Jakes. So when I was in my brother's house, TD Jakes talks about how to get out of the dungeon. Joel Osteen is operating at the 20,000 foot level. But when you hit the bottom, I need some gravel on. I need somebody on the rope that's going to tell me how to get through the fire. So that's what TD Jakes did. So they all played a part in, who I am today. So I need 4 seats at that table, 5 including me.
I appreciate that. And so many times while you were speaking this whole podcast, I've just got a chill. My spirit just started dancing. And when you mentioned Napoleon Hill, it was dancing like that. And it actually took me back because I don't know if we were around the same age, but I went back to MC Hammer dances with my spirit. So I was just getting started when you would say certain things. And when you hit Napoleon Hill, because one of our podcasts, Dre and I talked about Napoleon Hill, and they were talking about Think Rich and Die or Think and Grow Rich. I was like, no, his real book is about the laws of success. Those are
Uh-uh.
20. Which one you
You're
like?
missing one.
Which
The
one?
best one. The best is 2 of them. But the
Tell me.
best one ever created, Outwitting the Devil.
Now that one, I was going to mention that because there's a YouTube video where he talks about that the whole thing, it's like 12, 15 hours of
So that's the
YouTube on it.
audio. That's the audio
Yes,
book.
that's the audiobook, yes.
Yeah,
And
you gotta
I
listen to
didn't
that.
listen to I listened to a piece of it, but the one I read and before they had the audiobooks was The Law of Success. And now that you mentioned Outwitting the Devil, I'm gonna circle back and listen to the whole thing
Outwitting
or
the
just
Devil.
read it.
I've recommended Outwitting the Devil to at least 2,000 people in the past
Okay.
12 years. I thought my boss was the devil. That's how I started listening to the book. But he, I gotta outwit this mofo. But outwit the devil. I became, when I say obsessed, he talks about a magnificent obsession. I actually,
Yes.
I'm friends with the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, so now I get all my autograph copy books now. So when they first come out,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I see.
um, so so that one, and then one that they just published, I think last year, is called Mastermind.
Mm,
Yes.
Mastermind. When you listen, it's not an audiobook yet, but when you listen to how many times Napoleon Hill failed,
Hmm.
it's, I mean, he was married 4 times. He talking about all that. He failed so much. And when I say it would be crazy stuff that would happen, he kept getting up. And anytime that he got comfortable, because we're supposed to be talking about him 100 years later, or 60 years after he's died, right? So he's on this path to be somebody who we're going to be talking about hundreds of years from now. And every time he would settle and get comfortable, like right over here, they would burn it down to the ground, right?
mm.
And then he would have to, like, I would be like, how did this man keep getting up? You gotta read Mastermind. Mastermind was, I was like, my God. So he always wanted to talk about, if you listen to Your Right to Be Rich, or some of the books that he
Hmm.
says, he when he's talking in audio, he would say, I've always wanted to talk about my failures, but the publishers never wanted to do that. Well,
Mm.
but he kept manuscripts of his failure. That's what Mastermind was. You'd be like, my God. I mean, it was
I,
30. Y'all gotta read it. You'd be like, oh my God. He just,
I,
so it gives you that fortitude to know that it can always be greater if you just don't quit.
I love that. Thank you. I got two books that's on my list, and when we meet, I will have them read. So thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely Outwin the Devil. It's the greatest book of all time.
All
Second
right.
to the Bible.
All right. So, Christy, what's been your greatest success?
Thinking about, having a conversation with the guy yesterday who reminded me of I'm telling you, that was almost it was a full circle moment, because I have a lot of them. But I always say my greatest success is just never quitting, because life will always. I developed crippling arthritis when I was 25. I got a lot, y'all. We could be on this phone for the next 25 hours to be able to get through all the issues I had to survive. But I had a handicap sign for 6 months. I was 25. And I remember thinking, after crying for a year, blaming everybody, because
Mm,
that's what you do, right? You feel
mm,
sorry for yourself.
mm.
I was like, this ain't it. This is not the way my story is supposed to end. I'm not supposed to be. I'm 25. I'm crippled. I have a handicap sign. And by the time you get a handicap sign when you're 25, that means that you need it. We always think we want the handicap sign because they get the best parking spaces. But when you actually need to park there, it's for a reason, right? You be
Right.
like, um, so I never quit. And that's, I never quit. And so one of the things that I held on to, that Napoleon Hill said when I first, burned out, and is that, the only power that we're born with is the power to control and direct our minds into whatever means we desire. So
Mm,
I have the power to control and direct my own mind into whatever means I desire, not
mm,
what people told me I should do, not what people told me I should accept as a Black woman veteran. 3 strikes, boop, you're out. So not that people set up the limitations of what's possible for whoever. Is like, I made a decision at 25 that I wasn't going to quit. I made a decision at 18 that I'm going to defy, the expectations of my family and actually go to college. I made a decision at this age to do this, and then, not to die in the fire, and then not to die broke, and then not to leave a job that I know that I'm going to die in. And now proving myself right with, Bloomberg saying that Black and brown women are going to lose most in the pandemic. So we did $10 million. So it's like, for me, I think the success, like Snoop say, I want to congratulate me. It's,
Awesome,
but it's
awesome.
it's never quitting.
yeah.
I love that. I want to congratulate me. I saw the TikTok where Snoop said that. I started laughing. But here's a third final four question. What is your greatest superpower? For example, the Hulk is strong, Superman flies, the Flash is fast, Wonder Woman has her lasso. What is the unique superpower that Christy Rutherford has that no one else has on the planet?
My superpower is easy for me. When I see a person, I don't see them for who they are in the physical. I see them for who they are, living in the fullness of their destiny. Right. So I don't look at you for how you present yourself. I look at you in your infinite possibilities. And that's what made me successful as a military officer, because I'm looking at people and I'm like, man, you only giving me 10% capacity. I need 120 because we're going to win. I've always been like this. We're going to get these awards and, whatever. But it's like my gift is to be able to see a person for who they can be, living in the fullness of their potential. Now I got to coerce these mofos to get out of the way and get uncomfortable so we can actually become this person. And so that made me successful in my career. I created high performing teams. And now it's the same thing with, the women that I work with. They're showing up, hiding brokenness and crazy. I be like this. I look at crazy in the mirror every day. I know what it looks like. I know what it sounds like. I'm like, crazy. They be like, you can tell. Yes, girl. Yes. You can't hide all that crazy behind that Chanel brooch, the Gucci belt this big. You be like this. I can see. I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
So,
right.
I can see them for who they are, but then I can also see if they choose to make the decision to get out of the way and do the work to come back to themselves and who they are. So when we get the testimonials and I get them all the time of like what we've done for the women in their lives, and the money is just a byproduct of that. That's my superpower. Now it's hard in relationships because I see a person for who their potential is, and you be like, my God, I ain't see who they was.
I can see right through that S5. Was it that S500 Mercedes? I see what's behind that. I see what's behind that.
I'm not impressed by those S500 because you could be a
yeah.
I ain't gonna say I was very
street pharmaceuticals.
No, it's not. No, I can see see past that, but the problem is when you're dating somebody who, and it is what it is, but I see them living in the fullness of who they can be, not who they are. And some people are stuck with being who they are. You be like this, you could be so much greater. But at 40, I'm 47, so in our 40s and such, some people are just stuck in their stories and they won't come out of it. And I would say it's difficult for a person who's overcome so much to believe any limitation that's been placed on a person in a season. I don't believe it. So I rock with you for a little bit, but I ain't trying to hear that story after a while. You be like, right. You can overcome that because I've lived it. So anyway.
So that brings me to another question. This isn't the final question, but I'm curious. Have you had men come to you for help as well? And if so, what's the difference between what their needs are versus the women that you've helped?
I've coached. I think I may have to rescind that statement. I've gotten more men promoted than women. Did I not tell you about my Coast Guard days and how they killing the game over there? Okay. So I was just getting started with the women. The reason why I was working with women, God is like, you need to work with women who are just like you. I was like, man, I don't even like women. I ain't trying to do that. Yeah. And he's like, well, I ain't gonna give you no money. So that's what took me a little bit while longer to make some money in my business because I wasn't trying to be obedient. I was like, I don't even like women. And then but there's a difference between women and ambitious women. You're like, go after who you used to be. Because if I could set an ambitious woman free, she's going to touch 10,000 or a million people. So that's the great impact. I work with leaders.
Okay.
But yeah, I've had men. I actually had one of my former clients who inboxed me the other day. It's just the business is just a little bit different now. But I've coached men. I've coached some of my Harvard classmates. I've coached men. I've coached my mentors. I used to coach some of my bosses. So I've coached a lot of men. And then we did one men's cohort this year. We won't do another one ever again because it took us too far outside of it. But so the difference, I would say, a part of the work that I do is I try to figure out where are you stuck? So a lot of successful people, the reason why you're not getting to a certain level is like a catapult with like a little linchpin. It's like right here. And I call it your trauma default. What is your default response to somebody telling you that you can't do something? We instantly prove you wrong. What is your default response to, women showing up? Or what's your default response? So I had one client who lived in New Zealand who was the youngest, principal of this consulting company. And he was the graduated top in his high school, freaking grad school, college, and there was something driving it. Well, when he was younger, the country ended up going to war. He lived in Somalia. They went to war, and they lived in tents for 2 years.
Mm.
So now in his adulthood, he's not connecting it, but that's what I do. In his adulthood, he's showing up at work, always thirsty for feedback. Leaders only gonna give you feedback for so much. After a while, you be like this, hey, bruh, I'm not gonna be telling you great every meeting, right?
Right.
So if he didn't get feedback, he would be freaked out. So we had to figure out what is the root of that. So we go to the root of like what's creating the problems that you're suffering with today.
Mm.
And so it was in his mind, if he's talking in a meeting and you don't like him, he thinks he's going to get fired. And when he gets fired, he's going to lose everything. And then he's going to move back into a tent.
Mm.
So, and then he always talked about being seen in a room and being seen in a room. The dude's like 6'3". He's huge. So he was living from the mind of his 10-year-old trauma.
Mm.
That's why he was always trying to be taller. I'm like, bro, when you in the room, people know you in it. You're like 6'3", right? And his spirit is huge. But that was the work. So the work is the same for men and women. We're trying to go back and figure out where you're stuck and why you don't see yourself. And so one of my clients who's had a lot of therapy and he's done a lot of things, and he's in our men's group that we had. And so, but he doesn't see how great he is. And so it took a while. I said, the hardest people to work with are the people who work with personal development companies, because they think they know everything, or the people who had therapists because they think they know everything. And I'm like, so you've done a lot, but there is something that's smoldering. There's a fire that's smoldering that you ain't put out. And y'all know how forest fires get started. Most forest fires get started when people thought they put the fire out and something came by and sparked it, and then it burned like most of it down. I'm like, so you still got something. We got to figure out what it is. And once we figured it out, it was his ex-wife's mama broke up their marriage.
Whoa.
He never forgave that lady. She died like 15 years ago. He had no idea, because he's done all the work. I've gone to therapy. Like, me and my ex-wife, we talk all the time, and I've done this and I've done that, and I got a therapy on this, and like, and so we had to figure it out. And it's based on what his triggers were. He doesn't like women to give him an ultimatum. So once I started to get them triggers, now we got to dig up where that's coming from.
Right.
And he loathed. That lady died 15, 20 years ago. But once we figured out what that was, and then he had to do the work to forgive her, he said he woke up the next day, ran his fastest, 6 miles ever, right? And then, I got a text from the other day where 4 speaking engagements just fell out of the sky. So now he's getting paid to speak. So now he's showing up bigger because he's letting that go. So that's really the work that we do.
Wow. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask this obvious question. With all that you've shared, I imagine listeners are probably chomping at the bit to have an opportunity to have you coach them. What's the best way for them to reach you? And we'll link that to our show notes.
Oh, okay. So they can text change now to 66866. Again, change now to 66866. Or they can go with change now with Christy. And I have a video that shares how to get a 30% raise this year without getting another degree. Stop getting all these degrees! And they can get that change now. Text change now to 66866 or go to change now with Christy. So I want, and then I have my YouTube channel is The Vision Finder, where you can search my name, Christy Rutherford. And what I want is, for people to become acquainted with the information. My best clients are the ones who follow me for a little bit, right? You don't have the immediate, but it's like, I'm a lot. So that cold intro is shocking for most people. They be like, I thought you was going to act different. You sound just like you do in videos. You be like, I'm the same. So, but yeah, they get that insight and then they see what we do, then they can choose whether or not it's right for them. And, I love, setting women free from themselves, and that's my service now. I am who I needed 10 years ago to wrestle these chicks to the ground and put them in the headlock and get them to change so they could be present with their family, so they could be present with their kids, so they could be present with their husbands, and then we're gonna get this money too. It ain't about the money, but we're gonna get this money.
All right. I like it. So here's the final 4 question. You've written 6 books. the last.
I've written 16. I've published 9.
Where
But
did I
go
get
ahead,
6
Dre.
from? Okay, well, thank you.
That's the short bio.
One thing,
That's the short
we
bio.
can be sure of that you'll keep me honest throughout the entire process here.
That's the short bio. That's the short bio.
Okay, so, and feel free to correct me on this one too. Have you written an autobiography yet? I'm thinking no, but maybe you have. Have you? And
Not the long story.
if you haven't, what would be the title of the autobiography if you hadn't written it yet?
Oh my God. Endure to the end. It gets better.
I like it.
It gets better if you endure.
Endure. Okay.
Don't take my title because I'm gonna go down and get that right now.
Yeah, endure to the end. Christy, I must confess, this has been enlightening. Like I said, my spirit has been dancing like MC Hammer on numerous occasions, and you're a breath, you're like a hurricane of energy, and it's just so fascinating to meet someone like you. Your chemistry, your presence, your effervescence, your undying words and expressions. I just want to thank you and tell you that we appreciate you immensely for being here, sharing your wisdom, your knowledge with our listeners. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Smiley. Thanks, Dre. I wasn't correcting you, Dre, because this,
too
Dre
late.
don't like me wrong. That's his trigger. Hey, Smiley, that's his trigger.
I'm
Let's
all,
dig deeper into
I'm
when somebody
feelings
tells you that
now.
you're wrong. He triggered.
I'm in my feelings now. It's too late. It's too late.
He triggered.
He's going to sign up for a session because he's like, man, I got corrected on every step.
But no, Christy, it's been real. I can't, Smiley, keep me honest here too. This is your opportunity to correct me. I can't think of a guest we've had that's been so energetic and fun and have so much depth and and a lot to offer to obviously her clients, but our listeners as well. It's been an incredible podcast. Thanks for joining, Christy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I had a good time. Thanks for inviting me. This was awesome. Thanks for the questions because y'all are asking me questions that I wouldn't say that I haven't revealed parts of who I am because it's a lot, but it's good though. It's all making sense now. Thanks so much, Dre and Smiley.
Before we end, are you sure, Christy, the title of the autobiography shouldn't be "I'm a Lot"?